What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the greatest combat sports and culture show in the entire universe, the Fight Podcast. This is episode 262, and I can't lie, man. There are certain things that really make me smile, man, and today is one of those days. I'm really humbled to be joined today by this legend. This is one of these guys that has done it all. Anything that you could really think about in this combat sports game, this dude has done. Managing legends like Smokin Joe Frazier. You have him working with you, being literally synonymous with the UFC as Dana White. Who am I talking about? None other than the babysitter to the stars himself, the legend, Bert Watson. Brother, what it do, man? Welcome to the Fight Podcast.
What's up, baby?
Hey, man, thank you so much for joining me, man. I'm humbled, man. Thank you for being on the show today. How are you today, sir?
Man, I'm trying to make it, baby, and thank you for having me, man. I appreciate being here, enjoying
Absolutely.
you, and I've watched the show, and
I appreciate it, man.
I've enjoyed some of your work, and it's a pleasure. But it's always good to be relevant, okay? To have people want to listen to you and talk to you. You know,
Bro,
I don't have a problem doing that, baby.
I love it, man. Look, you are recognized, and you truly are a legend. And when I say you're synonymous with the sport, bro, if everybody who came up watching UFC, listening to, we rolling, like and getting ready to go, man, that is something that to this day I miss in the UFC, man.
Yes, sir.
So hearing, man. I want to start with this, man, because you have a very unique story, and I think a lot of people don't know, some of the things that you have done. I mean, you have, you're doing podcasts and radio shows now. You have,
sir.
you have your own promotion.
I'm trying to follow you, baby.
Man, and again, I want to talk about that. We'll definitely talk about that today. But I want to start at the beginning, and something that a lot of people don't know, bro. You managed the legend, Smokin Joe Frazier, man. How did you end up? What was that process like? When and like what got you into management?
It was a chance meeting, as I always say to the majority of young people that I speak to, because I love speaking to young people, young athletes, be it at the collegiate level or at the professional level, or even I have grandchildren, so I take it a little lower than that. But I love emphasizing how important it is to be on point, to be on time, to stay consistent, and always be on your game.
Yes, sir.
Even when you're not playing your game, be on your game, baby, because you never know when somebody's going to challenge you to bring that game to the table. Truly. And that challenge from life. And that was my chance meeting with Joe Frazier way back a while ago. Just a chance meeting. There was in New York, and there was an automobile accident, and he was in not in the accident, but in the line of traffic that couldn't move, and got out of the car to see what was going on. And chance meeting, I was there, and just
that's nuts.
Went over and no introduction, just hey, how you doing, and just the conversation. And the conversation led and went on to exchanging information.
Wow.
But that was my chance meeting. And when I say stay prepared and stay ready, because you don't know when that comes to you. I got a lot of Bert-isms,
All right.
And one of them is that you get a 1-in-1 in life. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's one chance, and one chance to F it up, baby. You never know when that's going to come, so you always know anything that comes before you is that 1-in-1. Mm-hmm. So that was my one. Sense. That was it. So I introduced myself, and we kind of exchanged names and information, and it never left from that point. One thing led to another, and I always say that I've always been interested in boxing and sports. Being a guy from Philly, I've always
gotta show love to Philly, man. Gotta show love.
Without a doubt. And also knowing that being from Philly and straight from the hood, I'm a hood rat with an education, baby. But I've always had to know how to use these. Okay,
you have to.
So I've always had a little some kind of an interest in boxing, and
there's such a great fight history from Philly. The city is just oozing in it.
You kidding me? I go back to Bobcat Montgomery, James Shula, Smokin Joe Frazier, Meldrick Taylor, Bernard Hopkins, Willie the Worm Monroe.
Yeah.
It goes on and on
legends.
and on. The guys that came from Philly, Smokin Burt Cooper. So there's always
even
been
to this day, there's some really good guys there now. Some of the young guys are going up there. J-Rock. Some of those guys are nasty.
Without a doubt, man. That Philadelphia history, Garcia.
One of my all-time favorites. I love him, man. He's great.
So we've always had a great history, even surrounding Philadelphia. You had Tyrell Biggs and Larry Holmes, who wasn't from Philadelphia but close enough to walk to Philly.
Right.
So there's always been great history around Philly. So, meeting Joe and, kind of communicating. And I always say that the first real boxing event that I ever really paid attention to, aside from what I used to listen to back in the day on the radio before we had television, legitimate television.
Right.
I'm also telling you how old I am. but it was,
I understand.
It was one of those things where the very first match that I actually paid attention to was Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, March 8th, 1971. And that was
legendary fight, man. Legendary.
It became legendary. That Joe won the fight.
Yeah,
against
absolutely.
Muhammad, and we just stayed communicated. We communicated with each other from that point on. That's and amazing. Stayed communicated. And, the communication of a friendship, of staying in touch, led to eventually becoming better friends. And me
working together. That's
working
amazing.
at the gym and working with the other fighters that he had, because Joe had a ton of them. All of his people were fighting. Not fighting each other, but fighting.
Right. And I'm glad you're saying that, because they always show Joe as this surly, angry dude. And one thing that I'm liking hearing is you're talking a little bit about, could you touch on him just as a person a little bit, and just the person of Joe? How was Smokin Joe as a dude?
Let me tell you something, bro. For Joe Frazier's 48th birthday, I think, or 48th or 49th birthday, I think it was one of the two. Okay. My mom cooked him a plate of fish and grits for breakfast, okay?
All right.
So that tells you, first of all, how comfortable I felt enough to take him around my mom.
That's true.
To be within my family, and my mom feeling comfortable enough to cook him a plate of fish and grits.
That's awesome. That's
very,
amazing.
very comfortable. But that's to say to you, there were times that Joe and he was a very committed person.
Okay.
And saying that they never, and I was not a trainer. I was not his trainer or anything like that, or really involved deeply during that time. But I know that Joe was committed to training. He was committed to keeping himself in shape and conditioning and keeping himself committed to his craft. And it showed because he became a champion, a legendary champion, and became involved in 3 of the greatest fights in the history of the sport, baby.
Yeah. Historic. I mean, those are the ones. Yeah.
Ending up with the Thriller in Manila. So his commitment was always there. Thus was his commitment to his community, his gym, and the people around. Joe and I used to walk into neighborhood bars, and people would be sitting at the bar just kind of drinking their liquor. That's what they call it, liquor.
Right.
Drinking their liquor. And Joe and I would walk in, and somebody would be sitting there kind of half tanked a little bit, and
Pop right up.
Whoa, and then it was like, nah, that can't be, but it was. To say
That's
that
amazing.
Joe he was plain old Joe. He was just Joe.
That's cool.
We went when we went on the road or we went away or went out in different places, there was high level, the way that you treated a major celebrity. He got that. Yeah. But when we weren't, and we were in the gym or in the neighborhood, Joe put his clothes in the cleaners and went to the cleaners and picked them up. Okay.
Yeah.
If he walked, he had to walk and do that, and just walking down the street. At times, I had to say, Joe, maybe we should drive. It's a little crowded, but he wanted to walk down the street.
Seems like he's truly a man of the people.
Oh, he was totally. But perception of him became the perception of what transpired from the 3 fights that he had with Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali was also, I eventually became friends with Muhammad as well.
That's amazing.
So
that's amazing.
Between the two of them,
man,
it was, but I also learned what show business was about. And I learned Muhammad Ali was the king and creator of talking trash and smack talking.
Oh, yeah. Look, there's no Conor McGregor without Muhammad Ali. Let's just be honest.
Kidding me.
You know what I mean?
Jimmy Connors learned how to talk smack because of Muhammad Ali. You had guys that it just went on. It just, from there, it just snowballed. Even Arthur Ashe, who was a very, he was very sedate in his appearance, and he was very subdued, but he talked a little trash.
Yeah, and he's a showman.
Over his glasses. But, it through all that, and Joe was the world loves a villain. Absolutely. And a hero. Yeah. The world always wants to see that. Sometimes they don't know who to choose or which is which, but they like to side.
They like it. Yeah.
Everybody loved the 3 fights between Joe and Muhammad were polarizing.
Oh, the most.
It was unbelievable, and people got to choose. A lot of people liked and loved Muhammad Ali and loved his flash and pizzazz and the way he talked, and everybody loved Joe Frazier, the fact that he was lunch pail carrying Joe and took whatever was dished out at him, and it was dished at him.
Oh, what was the energy like at that time? I could just imagine how, because I think about like big fights nowadays. You think about the like even seeing the only energy that I could almost imagine thinking of it was like Conor Khabib or Conor versus Mayweather. Is that what was the energy like at that time, especially leading up to those type of events?
Just as you see it and feel it now. Yeah. It was the very exact same thing back then. Man. Except it was so unexpected. Right. Today you expect it and you want to see it, and when you get it, you relish in it. It was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Back in the day, it was like, whoa, where's this coming from? And does he really mean it? Or doesn't he mean it? But it brought out the media. It brought attention to not only the fights, but attention to those guys in and out of the ring. It exploded, and the energy was so intense, and it was unbelievable, because it was also the very same outside of the ring. Right. When Joe and I made, we did personal appearances. Well, he did the personal appearances. I went with him.
Yeah. Hey, brother, you there? You in the building?
I was in the building. But, even then, everybody was saying, can we get one more? Can we get one more? Go get him again. So it was always there, and it withstood the test of time, but it was long lasting.
Right.
It lasted even after the fights, but the energy level was unbelievable. I mean, I worked with Mike Tyson and Oscar De La Hoya and Roy Jones and you name them. And even the energy level from those massive fights didn't I won't say didn't compare, but it was different than the energy level that came from a Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, 1, 2, 3 Thriller Manila, and inside and out of, there was a time when I know, young man, you probably have to go back through your archives and find it, but there was a time that Joe did an interview with Muhammad on stage, and they got up and they were tussling on stage. Okay?
Really?
Yeah, on television. I think it was either the Mike Douglas show or one of them. Muhammad said something, and Joe stood up, and Joe went over and approached him, and Muhammad, as playful as he could be,
right,
he did the shuffle, and Joe, and he went down, he grabbed Joe, and they rolled off the stage, and this was live television. But I
didn't know that.
There was no punches. Oh yeah, there was no punches thrown, but it happened. It was intense. It was intense.
When you were at some of these events and you were at some of these fights,
I was at the first one.
What did you feel? Can you know when you're at these? And again, you've been at so many like historic fights in your life. Also, do you know in the moment that this is one of those events? Did you like in those moments? Do you know it?
You don't really know it, but in the moment when you compare it to other fights, as you go along, you're like, wow. Yeah, this is
like that's pretty cool.
This is it. I started with the UFC in 2000, 2001. UFC 30 was my first show.
Okay.
And I did every one of them until I left. And between 30, from 30 and on, and that's through the Tough Finale, the Ultimate Fighter, when they started doing television. The first television network was...
Well, when they were with...
Come on, help me out, baby.
It's not. They're not Paramount anymore. They turned to Paramount. Yeah, Spike. There it is.
Spike TV was the very first, that they did. And you start from UFC 30, fast forward to 52, to 70 or whatever, and it was all growing.
Yeah.
You could see it had legs, that it was going to definitely take off. It had legs from the beginning. I could see that. Because I brought that with me from the other.
And that's what I was just going to ask you. Like, how did you end up going from, working in boxing? Because it's so funny. A lot of people from boxing don't want to embrace MMA. And you're one of the people that were really in there with the greats of boxing and saw MMA and said, hey, I can attach myself to that as well. I can grow with that as well. What brought you to the UFC? How did you end up getting there?
Well, it was a wonderful experience, and I had the opportunity because I started from the beginning, so I had time to grow with it. But as I said earlier in our conversation about chance meetings, I was doing Zab Judah and Kostazu in Las Vegas. I had progressed to that time of doing major fights and just kind of working. To me, they weren't major fights. They were jobs.
They were jobs, right?
It was a job, but they became history.
Yeah.
Because history has a way of making you a part of it without you asking for it, baby. It just does it to you. So they became history. So I'm working the fight, and I'm in with the promoter, and we're talking, and I walked out of his office, and he was like, "Oh, wait a minute, wait." I went back in his office to sit down, Now, I could have walked off and kept going because I had work to do.
Right.
And I got paid to do the work, not to sit in his office and listen to him ramble.
Right.
But I went back into his office and I sat down and he got the phone call and he was talking and he got off the phone call. Mm-hmm. Now, that was because I came back into his office. Here we go with the chance meeting.
Absolutely.
He said, you know what? He said, I'm just talking to a guy, and this guy is getting ready to start this organization, and he's looking for good people, and you're here, and you know what? You'd be the perfect person to introduce to this guy. Now, that was a second chance meeting.
Right.
I came back. That guy was Dana White. But at the time, he was Dana White. He wasn't Dana White.
Right.
Okay? So
he was Dana White. The guy just happened to have a couple buddies who had some money. That Dana White at that time.
Right. Who was rolling the dice on something called I called it wrestling. But that's what street people and hood people called it, wrestling.
Right.
You know, I didn't even know the term grappling. Okay, I didn't know what that was. I had no idea. But he said, I got this guy that's going to start something, and that's how it started. I said, okay. So he introduced us. We set up a meeting. We talked, and the key from that was, you pay me and respect me, you got me.
Right.
And that was it.
And you were there from then on out.
From then on out. And earlier point I was making that was from 30 on to 60. Then when it got to UFC 100, that was one of the first times when I said, damn. Because UFC 100, because when you do 100 of anything, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think Brock Lesnar was on that show.
Oh, that was the Brock Lesnar, Frank Mir, GSP, Thiago Alves. You had Michael Bisping. Dan Henderson was out there, man. Come on, man. I love that fight. That was one of the greatest cards of all. John Jones on the undercard of that card. On the undercard.
My babies. Okay.
Man.
All of them.
One of the greatest cards of all time, man. And again, it's so funny. That fight, I'm a young kid watching that one. I remember watching it in it was like at a vitamin shop, right? It's something like dude had a TV and it was at a vitamin shop. So I'm in there with all these meatheads, with protein powder buckets next to us and stuff, and I'm watching it. And bro, you're right in the middle of that. Like every time they're sending fighters out there, bro, we rolling. Here you going, and there you are, right there in the midst.
It was awesome, and the fact that it was UFC 100, that it was 100. That's one of the few times that I really stood and kind of looked around and said, yeah.
Yeah, like this is something.
Yeah, this is
dope.
This is it. And then, you know what? I went to work and got backstage at the weigh-in and talking to everybody, because one of the things I've always had this always gets me a little mushy.
Okay.
Because I always respect the relationship that I've had with fighters and their camps.
Yeah.
And I've always had, first of all, they were always my children. They were always my babies. They always belonged to me. And I always took care of them. And I did that. 100% took care of them. So thus, whenever we had a weigh-in, one of the routines, I brought everybody down early, brought them down early enough. I'd get them down and I'd get all of them in a group. And I wouldn't start my meeting till I got everybody. And sometimes they were a little tardy. I use that word, tardy. Okay. But I wasn't doing nothing until I talked to them. And that was getting on that stage or putting them on the scale. None of that was going to be done until I did my talk. So I always had a talk where I'd sit and I'd talk to them, and I would talk to them about what was about to happen up on that stage, the importance of it, what was going to happen the next day, and just how they got in and how they got out. You know, Bert gave them that talk.
Right.
And that talk was me bonding with them a little more and a little better. Yeah. But letting them know
everything. I'm sure that does a lot for the athletes too, man. Just because, especially, that's one of the most vulnerable positions you can be in. You're in there, you're going out there, stripping down your underwear, and going to go ahead and fight somebody else who literally wants what you have and vice versa. One of the most pressure situations ever. So to have somebody literally beforehand take the time and say, hey, man, look, first of all, I care about you. I got you. And you know what, man? Like, it's going to, let's do this. It's going to be okay. It shows in how the athletes have always spoken out about you. And I think that's why you're such a fixture still in the sport today, because of the care that you showed with those athletes, man. So I salute to you, my brother. Like, that's amazing, man.
You know, I always said to them, you know, that I'm going to take care of you. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make sure that nothing happens to you, because I know what it takes to get from home to the airport on a plane and leave your loved ones behind and go someplace else and get there and not know what's going on.
Right.
I know how that is. So I was never going to let that happen. When I knew they were coming in and when I knew they got to the airport, the first person they saw was Bert Watson.
That's so dope, man.
And I did that till I couldn't do it no more.
Right.
And then when I couldn't do it no more, then I made sure that the first person they saw when they got to the airport was somebody who was the extension of Bert Watson, and Bert Watson sent that person there to get you and to bring you.
Right.
I'm going to take care of you, and I'm going to respect you, but you got to respect me.
Facts.
100. Okay?
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
And I said, you got to give me that. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't give me that, then I can't give it to you.
Right.
So if we need to get things straight, let's get it straight right now. Now, I wasn't challenging them because they all could fight. Okay?
Straight up.
I knew that. I knew that. They all could fight. But they also wanted to know that somebody was there. And I tell them, you know what? I can F with you. I'm not going to let anybody else F with you. I promise you that. But you got to give it to me, baby. And you got to give it to me right. And that's the kind of speech I gave to them. I can guarantee you, when you come down tomorrow night in that dressing room, your name is going to be on that door. It does a lot. Your name is going to be on that chair. Your name is going to be on the list for the referee. You're not going to have to look for nothing. The only thing you will have to look out for is that punch that's coming at you when you get it. Everything from there to there, I got you. And that's what I did. So
that does a lot. That takes so much. If they can, that's like a monkey off of their back they don't even have to deal with anymore. That's
a gorilla, brother. That's a gorilla.
Seriously. Well, let me ask you this, because you've been in there with some of the most epic and wildest moments in MMA history. What is one of the moments that stands out that was just like crazy?
Aside from UFC 100, which was crazy, there are so many that you know. I remember being and I'm gonna tell you something, bro. I walked and I ran and I did everything myself. I didn't put a skirt on nothing. You know, when it was time to come out of that dressing room, I made sure everybody had me and my voice at the front of that door when they came out. Everybody. Not just the main event or the fighters that everybody knew, but everybody. Absolutely. Your first time, last time, or 21st time, you were going to get me to walk you to that cage yelling and screaming, we roll. So I ran. I was perpetual motion, which I still am. Okay.
But we're gonna talk about that, man, because you were working on a bunch of stuff still. Yeah, like I said, my man's hasn't slowed down at all, man. So I do want to talk about that in a second.
Not even a little bit. So it was pretty hard or pretty trying, always in and out of one dressing room and one. The only time we switched holding areas was when you got to the main event, because at some point, and I don't know which fight it was, we used to walk everybody to the holding area. But then at some point, Dana and the production staff decided they wanted to split guys up and bring the main event, the guy from the blue corner on one side and the guy from, but I was okay with that. Just tell me.
Right.
Let me know. And we were at Rogers Arena in Canada, and then obviously being in Rogers, that was a Georges St. Pierre.
Right.
I little brain fart, but I know it was him.
Yeah.
And that was probably the first huge arena that the UFC had gone to.
Well, that was like that first their first big stadium show, wasn't it? That was like that crazy,
5,000 or something crazy like that. But that arena was split.
Right.
And I always said to the fighter, I don't care who it is. There's one voice, fight night. Okay?
Right.
And that let me tell you something, son. That wasn't doing this. That was this.
Right.
One voice. Because it was so much going on.
Oh, sure.
And sometimes you'd go to a fight and you'd have 5 officials, 10 officials. You go to Canada, you got 30. So that's all those voices going on. So and it was so big, the arena, that I couldn't run from one dressing room to another because I had to set it up. So I actually had a golf cart that I had to take people back and forth.
That's great.
I took and I don't remember exactly who he was fighting, but they brought his fight out first.
Okay.
And they took his fighter to the wrong corner. I'm in the golf court, and I drive down, and the fighter wasn't there. I forgot who George was fighting, but he wasn't in the holding area. Whoa!
You're like, where's he at?
No, I didn't say it that nicely.
Yeah.
I ran to the commission. What did you all do with my fighter?
Right.
And they looked at each other. Oh, we got the fighter in the holding area. Man, I jumped off that cart and I hauled ass. And this arena, I mean, if you can imagine, it's like regular NBA arenas.
Yeah.
So you got the home team coming out of one side and the visiting team, and they're at a distance.
Right. Oh yeah, it's a trick.
And I had to book, and I got him. And when I got him, I said, you know what? We got 1 minute to get over there. Grab them buckets, hold on, and let's roll.
Threw him on the cart and kept it rocking.
And you know what? And they did. They grabbed them buckets and that fighter, and they was rolling. And I'm rolling. And I'm looking back to make sure that I saw 4 heads. Okay? The fighter and his 3 corner people. Because at a main event, you're allowed 3 or 4.
Right.
And I'm huffing and I'm puffing and I'm looking back, making sure I got that to get my fighter there. I got him there. Then I had to go get George and take him in the cart all the way around and go back and get his corner, because I couldn't put all 4 corners on that cart. And I said, you know what? Y'all young, run.
You better start running.
Run. I put George on the cart and took it around, man. But that was the craziest. And I finally got them in the holding area, and I had to go all the way back over because I promised them that I was going to walk everybody. So I had to go all the way back over and get them. And I had to run. I had to chuck. The hell with that cart, because that cart had to back up and turn around. And,
right.
You know what, man? By the time you made the second turn, I'm halfway there. Later.
Facts.
I'm running. And I got down there. I stood in front of him. Ring walk music.
That was amazing, man.
I went on, I got George and walked him. And when I got them in the cage and that bell rang, I went back and I fell out.
I'm about to say, man, that's one that you take a seat, definitely grab that Gatorade and call it one. Like, look, I'm chilling for a while, guys.
Well, that's happened a couple of times with. Mm-hmm. I remember, and I'm taking this one. Okay, this is mine.
Okay.
Even though they do now, there was a time when the fighters, we take them to the cage. Mm-hmm. The referee would. Before the referee, the corner would pat them down to make sure they had all their stuff. And, the referee would check them to make sure that they had no stuff or whatever.
Absolutely.
And he would check the gloves. And I would go on back into the back area. So I went on to the back area. Mm-hmm. I got in the back area, and I'm looking up at the big screen.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking up, and I see this. Okay.
Okay.
That's what I see. The fighters going like this.
Right.
And I saw 4 hands and 4 set of wrists, but all with the same color. And I'm like, damn, I can't see who's who.
Right.
Who am I looking at? But I couldn't. And in my head, I'm like, that's not gonna happen again.
Right.
The fight was Saturday, so I got home Sunday. Monday, mm-hmm. I called Uline.
Okay.
Who makes the tape.
Right.
The red and blue tape that they put on. And I said, do you have red tape? They said yes. I knew they had red because do you have blue tape? They said yes. I said, I want a box of red and I want a box of blue. So the very next fight, I took it, and it was George St. Pierre and Matt Serra. And I took it to Dana and I said, look, I'm going to use this. You know what? I'm good as long as you got it. Okay.
That's funny. So you're the reason that they actually finally started doing the red and the blue in UFC.
Not only in UFC, in MMA. And boxing.
Wow.
That they start now. Let me say it a little further because back in Pride, they used to use pink tape, but they had white tape on the other guy or some other. But the red and blue distinctively for MMA and boxing, every show, yes, sir.
That's funny. And the first ones to do it were George St. Pierre and Matt Serra.
Now, let me tell you the crazy thing about that.
Okay.
Was then I went to the I learned not to give the tape to the commission. Put that tape on yourself, Bert. Okay? Or assign somebody to put that tape on. Because I'm walking them to the cage and I'm looking, and they get ready to get into the cage, and they both had on red tape.
Red tape. You're like, whoa, that wasn't the point.
Well, you're much nicer than I was, because I wasn't whoa. Man, I went up. But you know what? We got that kink out, and now, and it was crazy because Herb Dean and
one of the
John,
best in the game.
And John McCarthy.
Yep, also one of the best in
the game.
Said to
me, man, what a difference. Now I don't have to look, they said. Peripherally, I can see.
You know
the red corner and the blue corner because I can see the tape. Yeah. And when they get in a clinch, I can see it. I can see the tape. So
it makes so much sense. It's one of those things that, like, wait, what do you like? This wasn't something that they always did. It's so synonymous with both sports now, and it makes so much sense.
Well, you had to see it to know it and think it.
Truly.
And I saw it, and I knew it, and seeing that right away, I'm like, no.
Like, that doesn't work. Like, I don't know who's who.
It's and especially if they're in a clinch up on the cage, right? You can't see nothing. And I looked up, and all I saw was white tape. I'm like, no, man, that's not good. Mm-hmm. Who's who?
Right. So, it's funny when you really think back. You think of those old fights with GSP. You think about I think about like Robbie Lawler old fights. In the UFC, tape. It's all white tape. Everybody has white tape. It's like when as soon as you said it like clicked. I was like, they didn't have it for a long time. It really didn't.
No.
That's nuts, man. Well, look, you're also doing so much, and not just in the realm there. Now you got Burt Watson Promotions. You know, you got your radio show and everything. What has Burt Watson been doing post UFC?
Well, I've always been a coordinator, which is coordinating and putting events together and making things happen. And in my lifetime, I've a lot of people don't. I mean, in 2008, bro, I did the Latin Billboards Award.
Really?
Yes, sir. The Latin
I
Grammy.
didn't know that.
Yes, I did. Yes,
I'm just thinking about you in the back yelling, "We're rolling" for like J-Lo to run up or Shakira or some shit.
I didn't yell at them because they were scared. Okay, right. I didn't want to scare anybody half to death. Right. And I'll tell you in a minute where that "We Rolling" came from.
Okay, absolutely.
But I've always been, as a coordinator, you always have a handful of stuff. So when I left the UFC and I started on my own, I was actively coordinating for whatever promoter needed me, wanted me, could use me, and would pay me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And coordinating events, But then as time kind of went on, I said to myself, you know what? I want to brand what I'm doing, and I don't have my shirt on now, but I have respect. But I have Burt Watson Promotions,
right,
because they eventually got to using my name, Burt Watson, and I just started doing things evolved around coordinating. I was coordinating events, and then at some point, they knew me at the hotels. They knew my work, and they also knew that if I was there, it was going to be done right.
Yeah.
So I went to a hotel in Fort Lauderdale, the Hard Rock, and I said, you know what? Can I get a date?
Right.
And they gave me a date. That was my first promotion, Burt Watson Promotions. I said, I have done that all my life, boss man, for everybody.
Yeah.
That's all I've ever done. And I've done it at the highest level, and I've done it at the medium level and at a regional level. And that was for somebody else. So knowing how to do that was there. So I said, well, why don't I just do that and put my name on it? So I did. And I started promoting and doing my shows and kind of, I did one, and it was pretty successful because the arena had been scaled down to like about 3,000, and I think I had like 2,600 people.
Packed house.
Yes, yeah. For your first event.
Absolutely.
I was able to pay all the bills and pay back my sponsors and not feel, broke.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Which was good. And I had 4 dates left from that point.
Okay.
From that one show, I was given 4 dates, and then everything happened. The world shut down.
Yeah, truly.
Shut down. First time I've ever seen that. And then the shows got canceled. So my shows were canceled. So like everybody else with everything that we're going through right now with the COVID and the world being safe.
Absolutely.
Everybody needs to be safe and secure and listen to the science, man.
Telling you, let them know.
It's the people that know what they're doing. It's like me going to do an event and somebody try to tell me how to do it. No, you listen to me, and I'm gonna get you in that cage, get you out, and take you back and get you paid.
Facts.
And then send you home. So you listen to the signs. So it happened, and I got cut off. So I'm sitting at home.
But again, you've been out of the crib. You've been able to reinvent yourself, and you have your radio show and everything now, man. So tell me, man, what's going on with the show?
I was sitting at home, and I have 5 grandchildren. And,
congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Well, I'm very proud of. My oldest grandson graduated from Yale.
That's amazing.
I got a granddaughter that's trying to make a decision. I got one that's headed to William and Mary to play lacrosse.
That's awesome.
You know, I got one that was with Tiger Showman, but all my grandkids. So I'm sitting and I started doing Instagram Live. Yeah. Okay. So I was doing it because everybody's home doing nothing. I'm doing it by myself. So one of my granddaughters said, Pop, why are you talking to yourself? Okay. Why are you sitting on Instagram by yourself? And click. It was like, okay, why am I sitting here by myself? So the very next time I said, you know what? I'm going to give Vitor Belfort a call. And I called him. Now, why him? Because I had just recently talked to him.
Right.
I still keep in touch with a lot of people.
Yeah, of course.
I have phone numbers that don't even work anymore. You know, I got phone numbers I've had in my phone since 2005. Right. Some of them work, some of them don't. Yeah. So I called him and said, "Hey, man, I'm gonna be on Instagram Live, and I've been talking to myself. Would you go on with me?" He said, "Of course I would. It'd be great. It would be legend to legend, one legend to another." Bing.
Right.
The bell went off. So I thought of the concept, legends to legends. Well, when he mentioned legends to legends, I was like, oh.
Yeah, there it is.
Here it is. So then I went and I took that concept to MMA Junkie. And I said, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm doing. And so one thing led to another, and we had a conversation. And what came from that conversation was legends to legends on MMA Junkie.
That's amazing.
And it's nothing but OG chatter. It's not an interview. It's me sitting and talking to legends, you know, and I'm going to have Chael Sonnen and Randy Couture and George and legends who not only that I know who have contributed and are legitimate legends to the sport, the Gracies, but people I can sit and have that. I say it's not an interview. It's OG chatter.
Absolutely.
That's what it is. Because I can sit and talk to them about things I legitimately, you know, I'm going to ask them questions and I'll let them ask me questions. Nothing's off bound, you know, and
that's the best thing. Those barbershop conversations. It's always the best thing, man.
We work together. I did one with Chael Sonnen and Chael said, "Hey, Bert, are you going to tell the people about the time you got mad at me for nothing?" And it was like, But that's what it is. It's legend to legend on MMA Junkie. And as a matter of fact, they're going to start putting up some clips starting this week on MMAJunkie.com, some excerpts from a show and then lead up to it. And I hope everybody watches it. And so that I got into and I'm having a great time. I enjoy it. I can be found on any social media. I love social media. And oddly enough, I use my name. Okay.
Hey, you know what, man? It's always special when you can actually use your name. We don't have to put like 18 dashes and dots. You know, we can actually use your actual name.
You just type in Bert Watson, and surprisingly enough, I see there's more than one Bert Watson. But it's Bert Watson for real, baby.
Yes, sir.
But MMA Junkie, Legends to Legends. I'm very proud of that, and I want everybody. I'm giving myself a little dirty plug right now.
Oh man, you're supposed to, brother. All the shameless plugs. Go ahead, let them know.
I want everybody to tune into it and check it out. And you know, my social media, I'll be putting all that stuff on it as it goes along. But definitely, you know, communicate. And I'm gonna try to get nothing but the best. You know, the legends. I
love it.
People. You know, reaching out for Uriah and the Gracies and George and Matt Hughes, and I don't want to give it all away, but I'm reaching out to all of them.
No, those shows are the best, man, because gentlemen like yourselves who are legends having these conversations. That's why I think Mike Tyson's show is so popular. You know, it's a legend having this conversation. You know, you're somebody that brings that same level of resonance, man. Exactly. In the thought, it's an amazing thing, man. I'm really looking forward to your show, bro. It's gonna be so fun.
You know, you can sit and talk to somebody, and I've watched Mike's show, and I can see, you know, he sits and he talks to people, and you can see in his eyes when it's like, what are you saying? Okay,
Truly.
you can see in his eyes.
Truly.
When
he will stop, kind of like, wait, that wasn't it.
yeah, nah, even though they smoking that shit, it's like I hope I can say that on your show.
Bro, you can say whatever you like, man.
Words over here, But it's. I'll tell you something, man. It's amazing for me as a person who's been involved with boxing and MMA at the beginning, the mid-level, the upper level, and the highest level.
Absolutely.
I am so proud of that. And it's amazing to see it because you can really talk about it and digest it and suggest it and talk to people like yourself and your audience. And they listen because it's real, man. If I tell you, it's I can say things to the guys, little things like and I'm going to try to say this nicely without it's one of those.
Hey, brother, you can say it however you need to on this show, man. That's how we get down.
But I still respect my fighters, okay? And I respect,
yes, sir.
And you always have to be very careful and watch them. And I was always really careful with the fighters and camps and everybody taking Vaseline to the ring with them. And I'm one that doesn't allow that. So, I told you that speech I gave them in the weigh-in.
Yeah, absolutely.
A part of that speech was that everybody tomorrow, it's your night, it's your fight, and you got to get it right. It ain't but two, it's him and you. And I don't want anybody in this room, I don't want to catch anybody with Vaseline, in your nose, between your toes, under your arm, in your fingers, in your crack, up your back. No Vaseline. I don't want Vaseline, petroleum jelly, KY jelly, peanut butter and jelly, Ben Gay, Gay Ben, fish and grease, French fries, fish and rice, Asian rice, nada.
Can't have none of it.
That was the speech I gave. Okay?
That's amazing, man. That's great.
But you know what they said? And you know what? And they started going along with it. KY jelly, peanut butter and jelly. And the one thing I get from all the fighters is, how's the peanut butter and jelly? Okay?
That's funny. Oh, bro, that's great.
But that's great. What, I'd get in trouble with it saying a lot of that now, but not in that setting because nobody's there but me and us.
Right.
I might get flashback from your show for somebody did he just say
Hey, well, that's the beautiful thing about these type of platforms is that it allows us to have our candid conversations, and really, have that space where this type of stuff is allowed and it's fun, man. And Bert, man, thank you. You're always so gracious with your time, man. Before we get you out of here, a couple things we got to ask you, man. We rolling. We rolling. How did you get? How do we roll and derive, man? How did that derive?
Well, I am perpetual motion.
Yes, sir.
And I'm also not a very young man. Okay, I don't have to tell you how old I am, but I can tell you I'm older than 70, but I'm still rolling. Okay,
absolutely,
hard and fast. As I told you when we were in the Rogers Center, I'm in and out of the dressing rooms, but I used to do that every place we went, in and out of the dressing rooms, in and out, up and down, and in and out, and I told every fighter that I was going to walk them to the cage. And I wanted to live up to that. I'm going to walk you to the cage. Absolutely. So I would run in and out of every dressing room regardless. And I'm going to tell you something. There was a science to putting dressing rooms together.
I'm sure.
Absolutely. A real science. Because you had to know what fighter was probably going to fight that next person in 6 months. What fighter. They never showed me that they didn't like each other, but I knew who didn't, and I knew what corner people, because I heard and I listened and they told me.
And you've been around the game long enough. You get a vibe for people,
Paid attention. So I knew logistically. So putting dressing rooms together was a trip. But I did it. Okay, and because
Absolutely.
the last thing you wanted to do was to put a dressing room together and have a fighter fight night show up
Right.
and look up and say, "Oh, he's in there. I'm not going in there."
I don't want to. I don't want to be nowhere near Buddy.
And that ain't him. That ain't on him. That's on me.
Right.
So you know what?
Right.
I hooked that up from before. When they step off and I do this, I tell them if it's up here, I want it in here. If it's in here, especially if it's in here, I want it right here. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask, bro.
Facts.
So I did that, and I'm running in and out of the dressing rooms back and forth. By the end of the night or the next day, my feet was that big, and my little ankles and my legs was all swollen up. And come the next fight, and sometimes, you see now where they're doing 3 fights in a week. That's not the first time they did that. Because back in the day, we had a fight on Saturday night at the Mandalay Bay. Wednesday night, we had the tough finale at the Hard Rock.
That's true.
Or the Palm. And then the next Saturday night, we had a pay-per-view. So that was 3 in a week. So we've done that back in the day. And when we did that, my poor little ankles and legs had no time to heal. And I'm running in and out. So being from Philly, usually in a bathroom singing doo-wop, okay? A little, that Philly stuff. I know how a voice travels.
Absolutely.
So I'm walking down the hall one day in Mandalay, and I'm saying, you know what? I'm tired of running in that dressing room. I am not running up and down there anymore. So I walked up to the top of the hallway, and I yelled, "Yo, we got 5-0 to go. We got 1 hour." And they heard me.
Right.
And I said, that works.
Right.
I went down there and I said, "All right, it's time to go. So we rolling." And I said that we rolling. And I didn't see anybody. I said, "Yo, we rolling. Yeah." And they came out that dressing room.
There it is.
You know what? That was it.
That was from there on out. It stuck.
There on out. They came out. And then I had to say, "All right, I want you here and I want you here." And when I say we rolling and they hit, because you would walk past the dressing room and you could see them in the hall, pacing, waiting for me. Waiting for that we rolling, man. And I'd go to the top of the hall, we rolling, yeah. And when I hit boom, they swung that corner, man, with that face, with that focus. But I had to have my guys stand there and catch them, because you got to catch the blue corner first.
Yeah.
You can't let that red corner walk past.
Oh, yeah, no. I could imagine. That's like 2 pit bulls when you see them go past each other at that point.
Oh, yeah. But that was planning. I put all that together beforehand. And when I went in, I gave that command, man. And I could literally see guys with the hair stand up on their arms, on the back of their neck, and in their eyes, and snorting. And that was. Can imagine what that did for me, bro.
That's amazing, man.
You know what? From that point on, it was. Then I did that the weekend on the way home. Sunday night, Monday, I had no voice.
Oh, dude, I'm sure. I'm sure your voice is spent for like a week.
I had no, and I'm gonna tell you something. My voice has changed now because I've been doing that now for 20-some years. I used to be a very good singer. But my wife said to me, she said, "Man, what happened to that baby voice? that little voice is gone. It's turned very raspy, but I still got it." And to be able to do that over the past 24, 25 years, because I started it and I couldn't because they wouldn't move.
Oh, I believe it.
At one point, it got to a point, the fighters, you can walk past and they were standing there. And it was good because one of the officials from the athletic commission would go in the room. "Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go."
Won't pay no attention. But that we rolling was like it's like a track star,
Hey,
and you hear the gun going off, bah.
hey,
It's like that.
that was it. I got guys now. You know, it's Alan from Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what is Alan's last name? From Brazil. I'm drawing a blank, but
Which guys?
he called me and left on my voice message. Oh, my brother, I miss you. We rolling. You
That's
know,
dope.
I've got a couple of guys that have done that. That
That's
call
cool.
my voicemail and leave. I missed that. We rolling, and they can't do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but they say it, and it's I've recently spoke to kind of text with John Jones. I don't
Mm-hmm.
some of them I've talked to, and
Right.
a lot of them I text, but I still got pretty good communications with most of them, man. The
That's
majority.
amazing. Well, that says everything about you
It is.
and the respect that you really treated these athletes with, man. And that's one of the biggest reasons I wanted you on the show. You are a legend in this game, sir.
Yes, sir.
It is an absolute honor and a privilege to speak to you. I hope we get an opportunity to do this again. Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Let the people know, man. Where can they find you, sir?
Absolutely, without a doubt, man. Any social media, Bert Watson for real. Just type in Bert Watson. If that doesn't come in, Bert Watson for real under Bert Watson Promotion. That's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'm always ready to take any questions. And please make sure you go to YouTube and take by next week. My YouTube channel will be up, full blast and ready to go. Give me some subscribers. Come on to that YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
I got all my interviews. I give instructions about gloves and how to wrap your hands and why we use gloves. And I can't tell you the rest of it, but you got to go to YouTube and check it out, baby.
Well, I'm saying we'll go ahead and actually pub that when you do it. I cannot wait for your show. I cannot wait to hear all the legends that you have on Legends to Legends. That's going to be amazing.
Yes.
We gonna get Anderson on the show at some point. You gonna get the Spider on there?
Well,
We'll see.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm working on that aspect, but that's got to be a three-way aspect because I have to respect his English.
Absolutely.
And I have to respect, because I'm not going to embarrass anybody. When I put him on the show, it's going to be a comfort level, just what I'm used to giving to him. But
Sir.
I'm working on it. I'm working on him. I'm working on Legends. I got to figure out the Anderson Silva, but I'm dying to get him. But I got to have a mediator and a time where I can get somebody that he's comfortable with, not just me going and getting somebody.
Right.
But I got to find somebody that's going to say, hey, man, you said the wrong thing.
Right.
Say it in Portuguese, and I can see on his face, because Anderson, we had a good, in my entire career, son, boxing and MMA, and I'm not going to, I won't give him the pleasure of mentioning his name, but I've only had one incident in my entire 35, 40 year career with one person. And like I said, I won't do him the privilege of giving his name, but other than that, I'm male, female, and let me just give a shout out to all female athletes, man. I am so proud to see the progression and how they have performed and how they have elevated this sport. Shout out to Ronda Rousey and Liz Carmouche, which was the first female fight that I did, and Layla Ali and Christy Martin. Because now I'm going to boxing because I did that too. Jackie lied. That's Joe Frazier's daughter. Shout out to all the female athletes, man, and really just kind of.
There's some amazing ones right now too. Really.
But it started from here, baby. And they went from this to,
truly.
And did themselves justice and are still going on. And I don't want to name any more names because I don't want to miss somebody, because somebody's gonna say, I heard you didn't mention, because they're gonna do that too. Shout out to you for that post you did last night. I appreciate that, baby. and I appreciate
Absolutely,
your
man.
show. I appreciate the love and everybody around Bert Watson. Appreciate
Absolutely,
it, man.
Well, brother Bert Watson, man, thank you so much for joining us. I hope we get a chance to do this again, man. Much continued success, everyone. Bert Watson, the legend.
Anytime,
all right, brother.
baby.
Have a good one.
Appreciate it, man, and good being with you, Sergio. Just keep rolling, baby.
Oh, you know it, man. We're going to keep rolling over here, man.
All night long. And I got to do it. I got to do it. You know what it means. When it's time to go to work, you know what that means. You know what it means when it's time to go to work.
I don't know.
We rolling! Yeah!
There it is. I appreciate it, man.
Boom.
Boom. Appreciate you. Peace out, man. I love it, man. Well, look, everybody, that was my conversation with Bert Watson, man. I really appreciate his time, his energy, and everything. Everyone listening right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, thank you. Remember, check out the Fight Podcast everywhere podcasting is available. Apple, Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher. Check us out at thefightpodcast.com. Listen, like, subscribe, share. You can do that right down there. This is SERG VICENTE, the host of the Fight Podcast, the greatest combat sports and culture show in the entire universe. This has been episode 262, my conversation with the legend, Bert Watson. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys next time, right here on the Fight Podcast.